Bam, bam.
Welcome to another edition of the Blue Review. Everyone, it's a special Friday edition. It's kind of a lax day here, and I don't mean lax just because we're wearing a hat that says lax. That's obviously our friends from LAX, but we're here, we're cool, and we got a there we go. We got another lax in the building.
Oh, look at that.
But as you can see, a new special guest has joined us, a new character unlocked. Our friend Noah Camras joins. Noah, how we doing, man? Of course, we see you all the time. You're one of our favorite Dodgers follows on Twitter, covering the Dodgers for Dodgers Nation and doing more. Just how you doing, man? It's a great time to have you here.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm so excited. I do have to get one of those LAX hats, though. I mean, those are some of the coolest hats I've ever seen. So
They're
I gotta
not
find a
bad,
way to
right?
get one.
Not so
No,
bad.
those are cool. I mean, those are really cool. So I gotta find a way to get one of those.
We'll
Hey, we
see if
got
we can
you.
get
We
one
got
sent to you. Yeah, we got you. We can figure something out.
All right. Well, it's been a crazy week in Dodgers land. Controversial calls. You got the Phillies series. You got guys coming back this weekend onto rehab, and just plenty of dudes coming back from injury. There's some bullpen stuff we want to get into. So a lot we got to talk about in a little bit of time. So before we do, I just want to remind everyone that here at the Blue Review, as Greg knows, as everyone knows, we're presented by LAX, our friends at Los Angeles International Airport, of course, with the stylish hats. But on top of that, they're transforming the travel experience, reducing traffic, saving us time, all great stuff, just transforming it for the person and the travel experience. So if you want to learn more, check it out at flylax.com/transforming LAX. So Greg, the most pressing matter, of course, the bullpen. You wanted to get right into that with Noah. So why don't you do that? I'll send it over to you.
Thank you very much, Parker. But yeah, so yesterday, for the most part, and by the way, Noah, I think that you have become one of the most sent tweets I use. So I send tweets to the group chat for Blue Review all the time when we're in the middle of games. You say things and I send it into the group chat like, oh, check this out, look at these stats, look at that. And like it's become just a thing that I use what you're talking about a lot. So I appreciate that and thank you very much for coming on. I think the most important thing that we're talking about though right now is the bullpen. So yesterday, Travis Rogers, who is a part of Travis's League, and he'll be on right after us, he said straight up, the Dodgers are not winning the World Series. That's it. He called it on August 8th. The Dodgers are not winning the World Series because the bullpen is not good enough. How do you feel about Travis's statement?
I think it's actually a fair take. I mean, it's a hot take. I mean, it's definitely a hot take to say that. I do think it's fair considering where the bullpen is at right now. The one pushback I want to say is I do think a lot of the bullpen struggles are because of the starting pitching, with all these short outings. Since July 1st, the Dodgers have a 5.33 bullpen ERA, which is 26 in baseball. But also since July 1st, the Dodgers have had a starting pitcher go 5 innings or go 6 innings just 5 times. So that's crazy. Asking for a lot from your bullpen. Also, since July 1st, the Dodgers have had a starting pitcher go 7 innings 1 time. It was Tyler Glasnow. So This bullpen is being stretched thin right now. And I think the pieces are there to be successful. But if they're asked to go 3, 4, maybe even 5 innings, every other game, I mean, that is going to be a cause for concern. So I think the pieces are there. And also they'll get some back. Obviously, the Brewstar one was a huge loss that he's immediately off again. But I do think there is something to be said about that because of how bad the bullpen has been. But again, I do think a lot of that has to do with the starting pitching. So I'm not totally off on them, not winning a World Series.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit too far too. It's a very pessimistic view, as Jasmine in the chat says. Travis is always pessimistic. He just leans pessimism. Maybe goes a little bit over the top of pessimism a lot, but he's definitely more of a pessimistic guy. He leans that way. But either way, I think so. To me, you need 3 super solid relief pitchers in the postseason. You need to have those 3 guys that you can go to, and they're going to get the job done. Do you see 3 of those guys? I think Michael Kopech can be and is becoming one of those guys. And then it starts to get a little bit murky of what it's going to be. Daniel Hudson was a guy that I thought wasn't even going to be on the team come the summer because of how his offseason, and then he was going to retire, but he only wanted to come back for the Dodgers. Alex Vesia was way up, and he's dropped way down. Blake Treinen's on the IL. Do they have those other 2 guys outside of Michael Kopech, who's only pitched 13 innings for the Dodgers, or 15 innings? I think it's 15 outs. Sorry, 15 outs for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question because, Evan Phillips has just kind of had that little downturn. I mean, he's struggling to get batters out, and all of a sudden that kind of makes the Dodgers bullpen look really shaky. I mean, I'm with you with
Right.
the Daniel Hudson. I mean, he's been probably the biggest surprise just considering he cannot pitch for so long and then come back and just be dominant.
Right.
Blake Trinan is also the same kind of thing of, not pitching for 2 years and then coming back. And yeah, he struggled a little bit as of late, but that's what this little IL stint is for. So I do think that when you get to October, I mean, assuming that Daniel Hudson stays healthy, I do think you have, that trio of Kopech, Hudson, and Trinan. And then the Dodgers just got to do something with Evan Phillips to make him that reliable fireman guy. I mean, I personally think that Michael Kopech could easily become the Dodgers closer and could become that ninth inning guy just based on the stuff he has. I mean, yeah, he's had 13 outs. He's faced 13 batters. 12 of them have gotten out. One of them was just a little single. He has 6 strikeouts. I mean, he has just been as dominant as possible. So I do think he has that kind of closer stuff. And then if you're just piecing it together from after that, you got Hudson, you got Trinan, you got Evan Phillips. I mean, the guys are there. And then you even have some of these new guys like Brent Honeywell's looking really good. Anthony Bonda's looking really good. So it's like they do have the options. You kind of just need everyone to peak at the right time in October.
See, I just don't know if I can trust a guy that wears a turtleneck when it's 100 degrees outside. Brent Honeywell, I don't know if I can trust that guy. But he has looked good. I mean, I'll say this. The way that this Philly series worked out, the entire bullpen got saved in those last 2 games, and then to have a day off yesterday as well. They really did work out kind of how it was supposed to, where you didn't really have to use your high leverage guys at all. So that was kind of nice to see. I mean, I would have liked the wins instead of not seeing the bullpen, but at the same time, you got to go with what you go with. But again, like, what is it about? So my take on Phillips has always been that he was a great fireman, but he's a guy that it seems to me likes to be in a role, know his role, and that what he's going to be, that's how he's going to do well. He knew he was the fireman role for so long that he was great at it. He can just come in and get those 3 guys out in a row. Then you moved him to the closer, and he's like, that's it. I'm the closer. And then your mindset becomes a closer mindset. And then just recently, when his struggles happened when they started bouncing him around, trying to get him into that fire role again, at least what I saw. And ever since then, he just hasn't been right. Are you seeing the same thing? Do you see something different? What's going on?
No, I think that's the perfect take. I mean, I do think he is just kind of that guy who likes that routine of knowing where he is. I mean, he'll always say, like, I'll do whatever the team needs. I'll be the closer. I'll be this. I'll be that. But it's definitely true. I mean, I think for most pitchers, too, I mean, you kind of like that routine of knowing when the team is going to deploy you, when you need to be ready. And yeah, I think that definitely that back and forth has messed with him. I personally think the best role for him is that fireman role. I mean, I do think, when you're in a playoff game in the 6th inning and, you got 2 runners on and you need that one out to kind of stop the momentum, like, I'll take Evan Phillips. Like, I want him to be in that position. So
this current Evan Phillips right now, you want that guy.
I mean, it's more just kind of, I don't want to sound like Dave Roberts here, but it's trusting the guy, it's trusting, what you've seen from Evan Phillips. And, even if he's struggling a little bit right now, he still had some of those moments where he's kind of gotten him out of these jams. So I still think that he is the best for that role, especially because of Kopech's emergence of potentially being that, closer, really high leverage guy. So I think for now, Evan Phillips has to be in that role. And I guess until he really plays himself out of it, like, that's kind of the spot for him. And then, if you're looking at like a 7th, 8th, 9th inning of a playoff game, that's when you can kind of have Trinan, Hudson, Kopech. And I think that gets the job done with Phillips coming in the 6th inning to put out a fire.
Mm-hmm. So you've heard our takes, but Greg, why don't we see just how bad Travis's pessimism was? We have the clip for you guys.
Yeah,
right
and Noah,
here,
afterwards, Noah.
Trying to remain as optimistic as possible that the Dodgers still have a really good chance of winning the World Series for as long as possible, with the thought process being Mookie's going to come back. Yamamoto's going to come back. Yeah, Glasnow is an ace. They made a trade for Flaherty. They're going to score enough runs that they will figure out the shortstop problem, that they have lots of options. Max Muncy will probably return at some point, and even if he doesn't, you have viable alternatives at third base, that all of these pieces were going to come together at the right time, and the Dodgers would go into the postseason with a real opportunity to win their first World Series championship in a 162-game season since 1988. I really thought that was a realistic possibility. I don't think they can anymore. I don't think the Dodgers can win the World Series this year for one simple reason. Their bullpen is terrible.
There it is.
There it is. There it is. It's right there.
Oh,
August 8th, Travis Rogers out. So now that you've actually heard it, do you still agree?
I mean, again, I think everyone's welcome to have their own take. I think again,
No, don't be nice about it. It's okay. You don't work for him. He doesn't work for you. You can say what
I'm
you
a
want.
huge I'm a huge fan of Travis. I think it's fair to have that take. Again, I do think a lot of it has to do with the starting pitching just not going deep enough to get these bullpen guys healthy. And then you also got to think like, who can they potentially get back? Yeah, the Brusdar one hurts. I mean, we haven't heard Ryan Brazier's name in how long at this point? Like, is he going to make an impact at some point? I mean, at this point, you're kind of hoping. And then you look at, how a postseason bullpen could look with some of these starting pitchers who, I mean, obviously they're going to have too many starting pitchers. So then how could a postseason bullpen look with potentially a Bobby Miller? I mean, I don't know what Walker Buehler is going to look like. So I don't know. I just think the postseason bullpen is going to look so much different that it's hard to go that far yet.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am too, because the bullpen it's constantly changing at this point, especially if Michael Kopech turns to become the guy that you're saying, and I believe as well, is that he can be the actual closer. And then you have that shutdown guy in the ninth inning. It changes a lot of things from everything before. It's just going to be interesting because when you have, it really depends on Yamamoto. I think a lot of it too, and then what you do with guys like Justin Robleski, River Ryan, Gavin Stone. My contention is, and see where you feel on it, one or two of those guys will become long relievers in the postseason. I don't think you need somebody. I don't think that Michael Grove is more than a one inning pitcher. I don't think there's anybody that is currently in the bullpen that is a more than a one inning pitcher. And if you're going to have guys like Kershaw go in and becomes be the fourth starter, whatever, you need somebody that can give you length afterwards. Or if something happens with Yamamoto, or if something happens with Glasnow. So which one of those guys do you think has the better chance to be that long reliever? And do you actually think that they will be used as long relievers in the postseason?
Yeah, the Gavin Stone one is interesting just because how much he struggled. I mean, 4 earned runs in 4 of his last 6 starts. I mean, you're kind of just getting a little concerned with that. Obviously, he has the kind of stuff to potentially come in and have a good inning, like, with that changeup and everything like that. But it's hard to imagine him like really coming out in relief if he's pitching as he currently is right now. That the interesting ones are definitely Ryan and Robleski, because these guys have, I mean, all they've done at the MLB level is pitch really well. And it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, the River Ryan this year just feels exactly like what Bobby Miller did last year, where he kind of comes in as a need, maybe a little earlier than expected, just, based on how he started the year with the shoulder issue, same as Bobby. And then all of a sudden he's now pitching his way into, we can't send this guy down. So the River Ryan one is super interesting to me. I mean, he's pitching tomorrow against Paul Skeens. That's going to be a really, really fun matchup for Dodger fans.
Great.
And just for baseball in general. But I mean, if this guy goes toe to toe with Paul Skeens and just keeps doing what he's doing, it's hard to imagine sending him down before a postseason. And obviously he's not going to start one of the games, assuming Yamamoto, Glasnow, Flaherty, all those guys are healthy. So I think he can easily fit into one of those roles where he gives you 2.5, 3 innings, somewhere in the middle of a game, just to even, in a game 4 where Kershaw is starting, something like that.
See, that's also, so that's the next thing I wanted to get to, because for the most part, as long as Yamamoto's healthy, we're doing this. It's very clear that it's going to be Glasnow, Flaherty, Yamamoto. I would assume Yamamoto becomes the third guy because of how long he's been out. So then it becomes that fourth guy. And Kershaw did not look good. The first one, he looked okay. Second one, he looked really bad. And then the third one, he looked good. Like, he looked that he was very, very serviceable. And then if he can stay like that, can be that fourth guy. Would you, as of right now, do you trust Kershaw to be the fourth guy, River Ryan to take that spot, maybe Justin Robleski, or even like a Landon Knack? What would you want for your rotation to be like on a 7-game series? Because it won't happen in the 5.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick right now who my game 4 starter was, assuming Yamamoto's healthy, I don't know if I trust Kershaw to be that guy. I will say, I know a lot of people were kind of going in on Kershaw after that second start, saying like, oh, like this is it, like he can't pitch anymore. Way too early. I mean, this guy has his first major surgery. I think his first surgery, comes back. This is his second start. Like, obviously got to give this man some time. And he looked really good against a really good Phillies team. So, I don't think like the jury's out on Kershaw potentially making an impact in the postseason. like you said, it's not going to be games 1, 2, or 3. If it's that game 4, they're looking for 3, 4 innings from him. Like they're really just looking for him to get a couple out, get 9 outs, just to kind of shorten the game for someone like River Ryan, someone like Walker Buehler. Who knows what he's going to look like then? Someone like Bobby Miller. So I think my prediction would be Kershaw would be that game 4 guy. Right now, I wouldn't say I trust him, but also who else is going to be that guy if not Kershaw? I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to be a young Landon Knack, River Ryan, or Justin Robleski.
Yeah, no, I agree. So the thing with I wasn't a part of that whole like, oh, Kershaw, it's over. I knew he was going to get more starts, and I wanted to see more. But the fact of the matter was, I was at the game on Tuesday for Kershaw Day. If that one went like the one before went, that could have been close to the end for him. I think the way that you're seeing all of his family's always there. They're always taking pictures. They kind of realize, okay, at any point, this could be it. So we want to be there for the end of Dad's career, which it's very, very sweet. But at the same time, if that went poorly against a very good lineup with the Phillies, I could have seen him being like, look, guys, I just don't got it. And he didn't. He came out, he fired, he was getting swings and misses, he was getting outs. All that stuff was important. So it gives me a little bit more hope. And so, but if he has to continue it, he has a month and a half to figure that out, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it has to be just continued improvement, and obviously not every start's going to only be one earned run, but yeah, like you said, it's going to be the swing and misses that we're looking at. It's going to be the strikeouts. So, I mean, in a postseason series, the best thing you can do is just strike out the opponent. You don't want the ball in play. You don't want things to happen. I mean, that's why relievers who get swings and misses are going to be so crucial, which is why Michael Kopech is going to be so crucial. But yeah, I mean, with Kershaw, I mean, all I'm doing is looking at those swing and miss numbers for Kershaw right now, because if his pitches are, eliciting swings and misses, like, he's doing his thing. He looked really good on Tuesday. He was hitting his spots. He was getting those swings and misses. Obviously he was 1 strike away from 5 shutout innings, which would have been really, really awesome. Still 4 2/3 in a run. Not bad at all against the Phillies. He definitely put him in position to win that game. So yeah, it just has to be that continued improvement. And I don't think it's going to be linear. I'm definitely expecting, he'll probably go down a little bit and then come back up. But I think the rest they had 9-game lead in the NL West, which they don't.
No, they don't.
They now have a 2.5-game lead in the NL West, so it's not as like, hey, we can let this guy go. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to be a non-linear for Kershaw. But if he can at least get close to his level come October, I think they'll be satisfied.
So there's something that you mentioned to do, and the swing and miss stuff plays in the postseason, and it's basically plays in baseball right now. Dudes are throwing 103, 104 miles an hour. I think somebody hit 105 or 104.
Yeah, I think it was
the other day.
It was Roldis Chapman hit 105.1. Yeah. I think Ben Joyce hit 104.7.
Yeah, it's out of control how fast these guys are pitching. But the Dodgers just moved up a guy in the minor league system. I don't know how much you know about the minor league system, but they moved a guy named Edgardo Henriquez into Double-A, and that's a guy that throws 104 miles an hour. The one that has a live arm like that. Would you see him coming up and being a part of this bullpen at some point to kind of give you that swing and miss, that like, oh my God, how am I going to hit this dude?
Yeah, I know people have been talking about it a lot, recently, of maybe the Dodgers just deploy this guy, come October. I think it's going to be one of those things where if they're even considering it, they'll give him an opportunity in September to just come up and just see if he can really just miss bats at the MLB level and, kind of see what happens with that. If I'm a Dodger fan, I would not be banking on that. But you never know. I mean, you truly never know. And if this guy's going to have this meteoric rise and the Dodgers want to at least give him a shot in September, then yeah, that could be really a secret weapon that, teams aren't going to have much scouting on him. So that's kind of the bonus when you think of a young guy coming up at that time. And obviously the pressure of October is there, but if you really just have that swing and miss stuff and you come in with no scouting on you and you just got to start missing bats in October, I mean, that's what you call a secret weapon for sure.
I mean, you put him next to Kopech and they're both throwing over 100 miles an hour. I know you need a balance on throwing on, you don't want to just throw guys out there just throwing 100 miles an hour. But if you can put 104 next to 100 and somehow get, because the starters that you have, the 3 main starters in Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Flaherty, they can all give you length. They can give you 6-7 innings. If you can back that up with a guy like Henriquez and Kopech, that really shortens your games and makes it for a completely different team.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, like you could really change things up by having just two relievers who are going to get 3 outs each. I mean, in a postseason game, I mean, that is all you can ask for. So it could definitely get interesting.
Yeah. What you got, Parker?
Well, as we kind of near the end here, as we have about 5 minutes left here, Noah, looking on the other end, we've dove deep into just like a lot of the pitching issues, the bullpen issues. But as you near the postseason, as guys start to get healthy, Noah, who do you think makes the roster when you're looking at, assuming one, that Muncy eventually comes back healthy, and of course Mookie's going to be back next week, and you're going to probably assume that Hayward's a lock. Who of these guys maybe gets the last three? And I'll name just the rest of the guys. Edman coming back from injury, that's one. You got Kike, who's been hitting well. Kiermaier, maybe they want a defensive specialist. And then you got Outman, who's probably just going to go back down.
He's already down. Down.
Yeah.
So you got Pages, Rosario, and Taylor. Of those guys, who do you think's getting like those last three spots? Because right now they only have realistically two outfield locks.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I personally think Edman's going to end up. I mean, obviously you have to see what he looks like when he comes back, but I think they have high hopes for Edman as utility switch hitter. I mean, really can do a little bit of everything. So I have to imagine he's going to come into their postseason plans. I think he'll be in the lineup, starting lineup in the postseason. So I think he's kind of the lock. And then you're looking at, do they prefer Rosario's bat or over Kike's? I mean, they both have the utility. It's probably going to be one or the other. And then you're looking at, is Chris Taylor going to be healthy? I'm not sure. I mean, I think in a perfect world for the Dodgers, he is healthy to come back because I think they kind of like that, clutch factor in a postseason. So I think they'd want Taylor on the roster. And then I'm not sure at this point if Pages makes the roster, which is really sad to say after what he did when he first came up, but he's struggling offensively. He's really struggling defensively. And yeah, like you said, to have Kiermaier's defense in center field over Pages potentially miss it. I mean, when I think back to last year's postseason, it all took a turn on the first play of the game when James Outman dropped that ball, So like you can't have Andy Pages doing that same thing in game one of a postseason series in a 5-game series. So I'm really starting to think that Kiermaier would get that nod over Pages because they want that defense. So I think it's going to be interesting, but at this point, I don't really see a world where Pages is on the postseason roster.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Pages, especially not a center fielder. There's no way he's ever going to be playing center field ever again. He should never touch it unless he spends all offseason and the entire season next year in AAA learning how to play the position because he's not there yet. So, but yeah, I'm with you. It's going to be Kiermaier because he's a zero bat, and that's the only concern I have with Kiermaier. He's going to be an excellent center fielder. He's going to make every play out there, and that's really, really important, especially for the postseason. But I don't know how much they can take of having an absolute dead spot in the lineup, especially in the postseason. Is that worth it for you? Would you rather have the defense and have the zero spot in the ninth?
Well, the only thing I think is, if everyone is healthy and playing up to their capabilities, then you have a 1 through 8 that looks really good with, Ohtani, Mookie, Freddie, Teoscar, Muncy, Will, and then you got someone like Gavin Lux who's hitting well, and Tommy Edman. So then it's almost like, maybe it's okay to have that one dead spot, or Kiermaier just comes in as kind of a defensive replacement later in the game type thing, when it's a 1-run game that you need to protect. I mean, I'm definitely not sure how they go about that, but if Kiermaier's not in center, then it's probably Edman in center as your best option. So either way, I mean, you're going to have good defense there, but I like you said, I do think the Dodgers are going to value that defense, especially if Mookie's going to be at shortstop and you're already a little uneasy there. I mean, you got to have something where you're confident in your defense. So I definitely can see them using Kiermaier just because if everyone's healthy, the lineup will look really good aside from that.
Yeah, and I see the chat, debating if it's only one dead spot or not, but we get it.
In the postseason, we're hoping it's only one dead spot. That's right now. Now there are 7. So
yes,
we're talking about a
dead spot. Unfortunately, yeah. There's a lot that we could react to, even more when it comes to dead spots and people struggling. But the good news is guys are getting healthy, and we might see the lineup at full health in the coming month. So we'll be reacting to that every day. The Dodgers got the Pirates coming up, and like you said, Noah, earlier, we're going to see some cool matchups. Of course, like River Ryan and Paul Skeens on Saturday. Today we get to see Flaherty again. So some cool things for this weekend, and they're going to be hanging out with the NL Central for like the next couple of weeks, it feels like. So a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. But Noah, we just want to thank you for joining us. I'm gonna roll out the red carpet for you, let you tell us where we can find your stuff, find any of your work. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, Twitter at Noah Camras, which is my name right there. That's kind of where I'm posting the most. And then you can check me over at Dodgers Nation. You can check me over at Newsweek. All those kind of things. I cover the Dodgers. I also cover national sports too. So you can kind of see me a little bit everywhere. But if you want to hear me talk about the Dodgers, that would be on Twitter. So that would be perfect.
Thank you very much. No, it was great. This was a really good conversation. I really enjoyed it, and would definitely have you back again sometime before the season ends and going into the postseason. So thank you very much for all of that.
Of course. It was my pleasure. I'd love to be back anytime.
Awesome. All right. Well, this has been the Blue Review. Of course, I'm Parker Bell alongside corporate Greg Bergman and our dear friend Noah Cameras. Like you said, we'll have him back soon. Thank you for being in the chat. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you to LAX. We'll be back on Monday, 9:30 to 9:55. See you.
See you.